That's what you got to be. Yeah, if you want to do that stuff, then you got to be. It's got to be. You got to be at that. I mean, you don't be at that level. You'll eventually get at that level. But the point of it is, we want to hear what they think about things, and so That's what they do, and they give you that. If
Mm-hmm.
you watch Bill Maher, like you're gonna go watch his show and be like, oh, I want to know this guy's opinion on all this stuff, or whoever it could be. And so if that's your world, then yeah, dive into that side of things. And if your world's not that, mine tends to not be that. It's more stories and trying to be relatable. And so you do what just talk about your life, like, and just make it very, personal in you as a comic. And then that helps when you make it personal. It just, I don't know.
Mm.
Everybody's got to be, they do want your
Yep.
opinion. Everybody's got to be like, I want to see you.
Mm-hmm.
Like whether you're Chappelle or whoever, whether you're talking about politics or you're just talking about going to the gas station, everybody's got to want to see you, the comedian, go through that experience. So that's what you have to be able to, that's what you're kind of selling to the audience is you got to be like, here's me going through this. You want the audience to kind of be, when they watch it, they're like, I could see this guy doing this. This is what he does. Like that means they're buying into
Mm-hmm.
they know who you are. And that's when you get to another level where then you're like, you kind of got that's like your voice, like kind of thing where you get your voice and you're kind of like, all right, like, I don't know. I get told a lot, like people are like, oh, you remind me of my brother or something like that. That's like what I'm trying to do. Like, I'm not saying I started
Ah.
knowing that,
Yeah.
but like you want to be their brother, their friend, or you want to be like, oh, you're like my husband, or your wife's like my wife, like whatever they can do to like relate to you is, the what you have to be doing.
Yeah, and there's people in the chat. Definitely, your style and delivery are something that a lot of comedians. I mean, I've talked to. I can't remember what comedian it was. It may have been like Sam Morril, but it was like a lot of your jokes. I don't know if it's what you're saying, or if it's how you're saying it, but it's like the math isn't always there, but it like crushes. And like, how were you able to bring in that, like, as comedians we want to be more personable on stage and like actually connect with people like you do with your audience. So what was that process of like finding your voice?
I mean, you still do it. Like I do think I never like that. I know I'm just saying like what everybody always says, but like, and the fact that like you never really find your voice. You
Hmm.
are always searching for your voice. There's still somewhat like I think Mark Maron is one of the best at his voice. Like what he is on stage is pretty similar to off stage, and I think that's where your voice is the fact that like unless you're doing like Larry the Cable Guy or something. Like if you're
Mm-hmm.
doing something, which is great, like it's fine. Like, but unless you're doing something that persona is just you're a character or whatever, it's trying to just be as similar as you are off stage on stage. Because once you do that, there's an old, as Louis C.K. said in an interview a long time ago about the older he got, it's like its jokes are easier to write because everything you say is funny, and everybody like kind of thinks what you say is funny because that means you have your voice. That means everything that you say is like the way I say it or the way I do whatever is like funny. So you get, and it's a slippery slope because you got to be careful with it because you don't. That's how you can become bad too. Is because
Mm.
people like are just like, yeah, they're laughing at everything and you're not getting like a true test of like, is
Yeah.
this stuff good or not. You're just because they like you. Like now when I go on stage, we're doing theaters and people are very excited. So when I go out, I can tell that like they're excited to see me, they're excited to be in the room. But you got to make sure that you're still bringing it, or otherwise you're like, I mean, you could really drop off and it become a problem. uh, but anyway, finding your voice is like, it just takes a long time. I always, I've never sat down and wrote word for word. I've tried that. There was an old Patrice and Bill. I remember Patrice O'Neill. I think him and Burr. They told me that like it was like you didn't want to write it out word for word. Because if you don't do that, it'll kind of change every time. Like every time you
Hmm.
say it, and not the bones of the joke. The joke's going to be working the same way, but your ands and your uhs and your these and like the little sentences like that stuff changes, and then that rhythm kind of changes, and so it kind of feels it's very conversational. And so you're trying to kind of like, or what I try to do is you're trying to hide the joke a little bit. So you're trying to hide, I'm trying to talk the way that I talk.
Mm-hmm.
And I always get told I say like a lot and, but it's like, it's just how people talk.
Hot breath.